supplies. Everything except the clothes on their backs, the heavy rifles in their hands, and their ammo pouches and powder horns. Isaiah did not like to dwell on dying. He had to admit, though, that barring a miracle, neither of them would live to see another sunset. It had been 5 days since they ate last, almost 3 since they had a sip of water. "I'll miss Agnes," Rufus commented sadly. A twinge of conscience spiked Isaiah. Agnes Weatherby had been Rufus's betrothed. Of all their loved ones, she had most resented their leaving, as well she should. Rufus had postponed the wedding in order to go along. "I'll miss the theater, the nightlife," Isaiah said. "And the women. A rake and a ladies' man, he could never get enough of the opposite sex. His friends liked to joke he was addicted to them. And there was a bevy of beauties who could attest to his carnal cravings. One of his fondest memories was the night he took Claire Beaumont to the Bowery Theater to see Madame Francoise Hutin, a famed French dancer. Madame Hutin had bounded onto the stage wearing a short, semi-transparent garment that had scandalized half the women in the audience into walking out. Claire, though, had stayed, and for some reason later had thrown herself at him in wild abandon. How sweet that night had been. And how ironic, Isaiah mused, he should now regret his decision to leave New York, when only a few short months ago he had craved to escape the bustling city, to strike out on a grand adventure, to leave the past behind in order to finance the future. "I am a dolt," Isaiah criticized himself and did not realize he had spoken aloud until Rufus responded. "Makes 2 of us. I could have backed out, but I didn't." Rufus paused to try to swallow. "I'm as much at fault as you." They fell silent, too spent to waste energy talking. Isaiah willed his feet to keep shuffling, even though his legs protested every step. He tried not to dwell on how hopeless their situation was. Lacking food and water was bad enough, but they had no idea where they were. Yes, they were somewhere in the vast prairie, but exactly where eluded them. They had no inkling of how far off the mountains lay, and the mountains were their only hope of survival. There they'd find game in abundance, find streams and rivers where they could quench their thirst to their heart's content. Squinting up at the afternoon sun, Isaiah wiped a sleeve across the sweat beading his brow. The hat he had purchased in New York, guaranteed to hold up for years under the most adverse weather conditions, hung limply down around his ears. The first rainstorm they encountered had about ruined the thing. It had been the same with the rest of their provisions. Nothing held up as it should have. Clothes supposed to last a lifetime had frayed in no time. Their boots, the most rugged and durable ever constructed, were cracked and split and would soon fall apart. In this damnable wilderness, Isaiah thought, blistering hot during the day, bone-chilling at night, harsh winds that swept out of nowhere, storms that pounded man and beast into the ground. And the lightning! How did one describe the vivid bolts raining out of heaven? One after the other, so many they lit up the sky as brightly as midday, crackling and booming in a deafening din. One, in fact, had killed their best pack-horse, charring the poor brute in his tracks. Movement roused Isaiah out of his daze. At the limits of his vision, animals moved. More of those slender antelope he had seen before. Automatically, he started to raise his rifle, then decided not to waste the effort. They never came within